So I'm curious, what is the town's relationship with the RCMP? Because of course, I think people know across most of the prairies, we don't have our own police forces. We contract with the RCMP. How does that work?
Well, I guess a community can contract with the RCMP,
Okay.
which, like in Manitoba here, many have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the percentage is, but definitely Winnipeg has their own police force. Brandon has their own police force. Smaller centers, I can't name off everybody, but I know there's other smaller centers. But even someone as small as Rivers. Rivers has their own local police. So yeah, you can have your own police force, or you can be contracted with the RCMP. So Mark works very closely with the administration, and so we own the building, we own the police station.
Okay. Yep.
And the RCMP sign on a 25-year lease.
Right. So it's not like a temporary kind of thing. They're secure there.
Yeah.
And their new location. Do you have any idea when that's opening, by the way?
Well,
I don't want to commit you to anything here, but
yeah, if all supplies show up on time, then potentially we'd be looking at, say, next fall.
Okay.
And but nothing ever works out that way.
Especially not right now, when you don't know where things are going in the next couple of months, let alone further forward than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's the same with our home center. Like, ideally, we've looked at next August to be completed, but I don't know, once
maybe.
Yeah, if everything shows up properly, it will be, and if it doesn't, then you're stuck. And everybody knows, every person knows what it's like trying to order stuff online or just trying to get things ordered in through the stores.
Everyone understands right now what it is
delays.
Like. Absolutely. So with the housing now that's gone in CN Properties and a few other developments, a few years ago we were in a situation where we did not have enough housing. People who were working in the community were going into satellite communities to live just because they had to. Has that alleviated some of that?
Certainly helped.
Yeah.
But there are a couple more developments that last night the council approved a new development that will be going west of the Public Works building.
Okay, so that's the west side of town.
West side of town.
Yeah.
And then it's also been in the paper, the Braze property. And
of course, yeah.
Yeah. So there has, and those are the type of projects that need to continue moving forward as well, because the community is expanding, and people within the community, like if you talk to the hospital, like there's lots of babies being born as well.
You just have to walk out in the street to see that.
So exactly.
Yeah. And that's, I think, going to put pressure on the schools as well. I think we're still short of daycare spaces in the community. So
yeah, that's right. And we still have the Eastview property that the town, we'd like to try and get that finalized and filled up as well. So there are a number of different areas that are in the works, but yes, it has to keep going because there's still a fair amount of people that require homes within the community.
Yeah. Are we going to run into problems there? And this may be outside of your purview, but with our water, with our sewage again, are we reaching capacity on that again, or have we sort of expanded?
No. Once the lagoon project, we'll hoping for completion maybe next year, but that should take us up to a population of 7,500, 8,000.
Okay.
And so we have some room there. The water, the reservoirs definitely help us out. Denis would know. I can't remember how much time we have, but it's not. It's a few days at the most.
Oh yeah.
It's so there's always that balance of trying to make sure. But we should have a buffer here for a number of years.
Yeah.
The administration has done a great job planning and making sure that the services people expect are going to be there.
Yeah. And they have to be there before you can sort of look at any additional things that sort of make the community run.
Yeah, that's right. And at the same time, recreation, I think certainly there was our recreation plan for down in Riverbend was when it was unveiled yesterday afternoon. And we see the announcements of the tennis courts and that. So, and again, that's that juggling act. There's, the resources for the town is only that big, and it's how you divide it up.
Exactly.
And everything demands, and nothing is cheap. Nothing is cheap.
No, certainly not. And there's certainly a lot of areas that need support from the town, like, the Yellowhead Center, things like that.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
That are quality of life issues for people here.
No, you're absolutely right. And the town does give a fair amount of money to, within the community. And like I said, by the time you're providing services, I know, I think it was 2 years ago that Denis went through and showed us to redo a block properly of water, sewer, change out the streets and everything in that. Like, it's $400,000 a block. Well, that's significant, and we know there's still a number of areas that need to be upgraded, and that. And streets still continues to be a priority with the town.
Yeah.
And it's that unfortunate part that when we do get the ability to pave, we have to go in and pave, and we try to balance, not doing too many tie-ins afterwards, but the community is growing, and there's changes have to be done all the time. And you can't just pave it and then just not touch it.
Yeah, no, especially we're having a situation right now where we're digging up a bunch of stuff right now that has to kind of go back in again. And, we are in Manitoba, and there are always going to be frost issues here. And we know that when we're building our infrastructure, but that affects roads to a tremendous degree. Yeah,
no, you're exactly right. I must admit, I don't know the stats on it, but just as a resident, I can't say that I've seen a whole lot of big water main breaks the last few years.
No.
I give credit to the public works that they are getting on top of a lot of the areas. They've been doing a lot of mapping and that. You think the community. Well, I'm not exactly sure the initial date of the community, but we've been talking with Park Lake that it's been there for 120 years.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking 1887, but that also might be Eden because that's where I'm from. So.
Okay, and so you look at that. Back then, when water lines, when things were put in, sewer lines, nobody mapped that stuff.
No.
So there has been a lot of trial and error, but I think for the most part, Denise done a good job on getting a lot of the town mapped out in that. And so it's trying to identify, okay, what is the next area that we have to be looking at?
Right. Let's do a little pivot here and talk about HAND a bit, which is another one of your major, I think, committees and projects that you're on.
Right.
So how extensive is the work that HAND does in the community?
Well, I didn't know anything about HAND.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't know a lot about senior services within the community and that. And so my father passed away 11 years ago. Mom stayed on the acreage, sold the farm, stayed on the acreage, and then I think it's about 3 or 4 years ago, moved over to Nipois here. And through that process, with her being over here, me being involved with HAND, there was a number of things that I found out about the group. And so with Eric, with assistance for emergency assistance,
right, yeah.
And I guess just the fact that, like, Jeannie, for the most part, constantly, day in and day out, was fielding phone calls and emails just on people inquiring about services for seniors within the community. And if you've got a parent or if you've got loved ones here and you're in a different province, you know, who do
Yeah.
you contact to try and look for help for seniors?
Right.
So that has been tremendous for the
Yeah.
community. And now Michelle, you know, she's going to do a very good job. But there's a lot there. Like Jeannie has built that into, you know, quite a big area. So there's a lot there to cover off and a lot of information that Michelle has to learn.
Yeah.
The nice part is from her past experience, she has a lot of contact with residents within the community, seniors within the community. And then we have the community meal. And,
Right.
and so prior to COVID, you know, I would take Mom over. We would go over and have
Yeah.
lunch over there, and that is a really good service. I wasn't really fully aware of it, but you know, they're serving between 400 and 600 meals a month, you know, through that service.
I think they had to pivot to takeout
Yes.
over COVID, but they kept going.
Yeah, and the numbers didn't really go down.
No.
In fact, to a certain degree, they went up a bit.
I think, yeah, I was going to say, I think they increased a bit actually.
Yeah. So that, you know, services like that. I also, you know, I'm involved with the Rotary Club, and and there's a couple of us that do the Meals on Wheels for the Rotary group.
Yeah.
And so, you know, between the community meals, lunches, and then the Meals on Wheels for suppers and that, like, you know, we have a lot of seniors that rely on these services within the community, and Neepawa has been good. There's a lot of people throughout the community volunteering on so much of this to continue these services. Because without the volunteers, a lot of these things can't operate.
Now you're on that committee as a representative of the town. What is the town's relationship with HAND? Is it just sort of a governance or financial or anything like that?
There is a limited financial, not a lot. It's there's a small per capita per person that's on there.
Okay.
And you know, I honestly, I don't think I've ever asked how that initially started.
Yeah.
But I think like a town representative is on there, as we are on several of the nonprofit community services around. And how that started, I'm not exactly sure. But like I said, it's been a group that I've sure enjoyed being on.
Yeah, I think it's probably a lot of those relationships are a two-way street where you're sort of learning about what they do and then being able to bring assistance from that direction as well.
Yeah.
So thinking about the makeup of the council as a whole, do you think that the council represents the population of Neepawa?
Represents the population of Neepawa. Yes, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Now, if we could ever find a newcomer to to come on to council, that would be fantastic. But if you notice a lot of the new people moving into Neepawa, and that, you know, a lot of younger people. So, you know, jobs are maybe not as flexible as mine with the co-op. As a general manager, the department managers can cover off for me if there's something comes up. Whereas, you know, if you're in retail or if you're, you know, if you're at the plant or that, there isn't that flexibility.
I think there's a barrier there too, probably, that you would have to be citizen to run for council.
Yeah, I would, yes.
Yeah. So do you think that there might be a real barrier there because a lot of our newcomers are not citizens yet, not just running for council, but for voting for council?
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, there's also a connect. Like Ashley's in the office; she helps us a lot with if we run into not necessarily language barriers, because certainly a lot of the people coming to the community have very good English.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be understanding of you know, and so Ashley really helps out a lot. She's a good liaison between them. And then like we meet either Mayor McCutcheon or myself meet with a lot of High Life new employees and that.
Okay.
When they first come to the community, we spend time. High Life does a tremendous training program with their people.
Yeah.
And then we introduce ourselves and spend time with them so that they know the connection.
Okay.
Certainly from a lot of my neighbors in the Philippines, there's not that same connection between the public and the...
Yeah, there's maybe a cultural difference in relationship to local government.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not always positive. So we want to show that there's this openness and positive in that.
So is that like a formalized relationship where you know there's a lot of people coming in, they contact you or you contact them, and...
Well, it's... I'm not going to say it's weekly, but definitely every month. Every month there's a number of new people coming in, and so we're meeting with them.
Okay. And do you think that the work that the council does has been, I mean, obviously there's been an influence on the population of the town. I mean, I don't know what percentage is, and I think we'll have to wait for the next census numbers to find out. Yeah. But I don't think I'd be wrong in saying probably 30 to 35% of the population of Neepawa is now Filipino.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say that the numbers are there. Certainly, if you look at our staff, I think our numbers would be starting to reflect that as well. Yeah. Maybe not that high, but definitely we have a large number on staff, and certainly. I don't know a lot of the other countries, but certainly I can say that this is a very, very hardworking group of people, and very family oriented too. It's very nice to see.
I think we're seeing, and a lot of these people of course are coming in either through High Life or through healthcare, I think we're seeing right now, especially in the last 5 years, a lot of families being reunited and settling in Neepawa. Yeah. What kind of change has that made in what the council is doing, the decisions they're making for the town?
Well, in some areas, we'll take a look at recreation. When the recreation study was done a number of years ago and released since I've been on council, one of the things that we learned was, for myself, touching my mic there, for myself, growing up in rural Manitoba, hockey was big, baseball was big, a lot of these things. So the recreation report, it highlighted a lot of areas like bike paths, walking trails, a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have thought of the same. Yeah. So it showed us there was a real shift in what people's expectations were in the community, and so as we're looking at services, we're also trying to make sure that what can we add in the community that's free, that isn't always a big cost and a burden, because a lot of these people have young families, and everybody knows when you're young and you have a young family, the costs are huge, and you think that these people pick up and from their cultures and move to a completely different culture. I just can't fathom, like, it's just that's so awesome that they're doing that. But not everybody can afford the cost of, say, hockey. Yeah.
And hockey is not a cheap sport to get into.
No, it isn't. We've enjoyed watching Braden. Unfortunately, he gets onto the Tigers hockey, and they had, half a dozen practices in one game last year. Yeah. But so we know the cost of suiting him up last year, and we know the cost of now having to change everything to suit him up again this year, since he's still growing. Yep. And those are huge costs. Yeah. Not everybody can handle that, Yeah.
So I think then maybe been bringing in other opportunities. I guess there's been a lot of development out of the flats. Yes. For things down there as well. One of the big things I think people are asking about is basketball courts. Yeah. Do you know if there's anything on the horizon there yet?
Well, it's definitely been on the horizon. But, our commitment and our priority was the tennis courts. Because, even though the school temporarily temporarily lost the basketball court. They were able to put another one up.
Yeah.
But definitely we know basketball courts are a priority, and they're
Yeah.
they're on our on our horizon. But again, it's that the pie is only so big.
Yeah. And some of these things have been a casualty of expansion in other areas.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is unfortunate. Yeah. So one of the things in this show in general, in this series that I'm doing with you guys, one of the things I want to do with it is I'm calling it demystifying the process. I think for a lot of people, the way you get on council, what you do on council, what council does is very opaque. The council has decided this and this is what we're doing. What steps do you think that we could take to sort of do that? I mean, I think we're taking a step right here, just talking about what you do. But what other steps do you think that are possible?
Well, I honestly have not really thought about that before. But definitely, chats like this, people can see, what some of the expectations are.
Yeah.
There's, for myself, right at the very start, controversy on what direction to go with the cemetery. I'm embarrassed to say that I had never been involved in any of those conversations. Didn't even realize the challenges of the cemetery, so I had no idea what the issues were. So standing up there for the candidates night and trying to explain what direction would you go with this, and I'm sorry, I don't even know. I don't know what the issues are. So those challenges can be there and a little intimidating, but for somebody that spends a lot more time, I think watching the council minutes and that.
And we broadcast all the council meetings here.
Absolutely,
So,
and I never watched council minutes before,
Yeah.
and so if people are interested, definitely to watch the council minutes, watch programs like this.
Yeah.
Mayor McCutcheon has his candidate time.
He's coming in next week to talk to us. Yeah,
right.
We'll get through
and so
everybody.
I think our council is certainly trying to keep people as informed as possible.
And what do you think for people? And I think just going back to this, who are newcomers, who are not citizens yet, who are not able to vote or participate in those ways, what ways can those people get involved in decision making in the town?
Well, at budget time, we have open house to the public for budgeting, and that's a perfect opportunity to come in and see what direction the town is going, to participate in the discussions at that time. Like I said, sitting in, watching the meetings for that, and certainly, there's always the opportunity to sit down and talk to anyone, one of the councillors. Everyone is approachable. Everyone is, friendly and is always willing to be listening.
I think I probably wouldn't be out of line saying if they wanted to contact the town office and ask questions, that someone would always be sort of willing to
for
address
sure.
that.
Yeah, like our administration staff in there are, like I said, I just can't give them enough praises. We've got great people in there. They know their stuff, and they're always willing to help anybody.
Yeah. And what areas, especially within what you do on council, are you looking for volunteers and people to get involved?
Hadn't really thought about that either. Volunteers. I guess we work with volunteer groups. So for example, with the Legion, participating with them on the cemetery, on what they would kind of like to see. The direction go with planting or doing things up there. As for actual volunteering, I'd have to think about that.
Okay.
I
think maybe people might be looking for opportunities to sort of get their hands dirty doing some actual work with
and
town initiatives.
and to take a look at with the flooding that we had last year and the community involvement there, you know, you know, as a counselor, you sit back and you take a look at what happened. You know, the devastation, that's 10 to 12 million dollars worth of damage that now we have to start working on rebuilding.
Yeah.
But everybody, it didn't matter who it was.
Yeah.
Everybody was sandbagging, and people drove for miles to come in and help.
Yeah.
And
I was down filling sandbags that day, and I still tear up a bit thinking about
I know that was a
the line of trucks waiting for us to fill them, and just
exactly, that was a community in crisis, and
Yeah.
everybody came together. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to stand back, and that's all you can say is, wow, that was impressive.
Yeah. So, any sort of last thoughts for us on your role as deputy mayor and what you're looking at going forward?
I guess looking at going forward, we in our business we do a lot of long-term planning, and I know in the past I had probably been a bit critical of the town on long-term planning, but there was a lot going on in the background that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
So in fairness, they were doing long-term planning, but I would also like to see, I'd like to see us look at, you know, we have good plans for 5 and 10 years down the road, but you know, when you look at the growth that this community has gone, I think we should be looking 20, 30, 50 years into the future to do some planning, and that would be areas that I would be looking at.
Yeah. Well, I hope to see you have the opportunity to continue with that work, because I'm kind of on board with that, seeing what we can accomplish in that time.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. This has been a great chat today.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.